This is the 3 Mile Opal Field, one of the oldest black opal fields in Lightning Ridge, New South Wales, Australia, and that is a gigantic excavation, and we're going to go down inside that. The hole that I'm standing in is 100 metres long and about 30 metres wide, and I didn't think to ask how deep it is.
About 11 metres.
Hello and welcome back to Curiosity Mine. It's been almost a year since we last checked in with the Australian Opal Centre's incredible building project on the 3 Mile Opal Field at Lightning Ridge. Last time we saw the site, it had walls. Since then, it's got a roof, and it's got infrastructure, and it's got a car park, and it's got some of the features that will make it a unique and immersive experience for visitors. And it's really starting to look like a museum. In this sneak preview, we're actually going to go back in time a little bit. Almost 10 years ago, I toured the Australian Opal Centre building site with long-term AOC champion Jenni Brammall, who guided me through where various features and infrastructure would soon be.
So we're actually standing in the middle of a very old opal field, and that's a big part of the story of this site.
So as we look around the site in 2025, we can see how some of these features have come into reality, as well as how the design of the building has changed and adapted as time has gone by. We'll start at the entrance, which has changed quite a bit since 2018.
You can see up the top there's a sloping cut. That's the entry ramp for the building. So the main entry for the building will be on that section there, and when you come to visit us you'll be walking into the building around about there. In fact, there's a stair entrance there and there's a ramp there for disability access.
The entrance is no longer on the southern end of the building, it's now on the western side, and rather than just a simple ramp down into the complex, it's now a meandering journey through a few unique architectural features, which we'll take a look at now. The building's entrance is a ramp which leads to the oculus, a round space that resonates with the sounds of nature, the wind, the leaves of the bimblebox rustling in the breeze.
Even the sound's lovely in here. The walkway down, and this area will have what's called a GRP grading. It's a material that's used in national parks and other places to give you a really good, accessible, non-slip footing. We've got a fantastic community heritage project where members of the community have given us objects of significance to them to put into the gabion baskets.
If you're not familiar with gabion baskets, they're these things, which are kind of cube-shaped cages filled with rocks that are sometimes used for industrial and infrastructure projects like retaining walls for bridges, things like that. The gabions can be filled with anything, and part of what goes into these gabions will be artefacts of Lightning Ridge life, special things donated by locals.
Things that, of course, they don't mind being out in the weather and continuing to sort of experience the heat and dust and rain and cold of being outside here. But it's sort of like reverse archaeology. As visitors come down, they might notice a mining pick or a milkshake cup from Dawson's store or Maud's cafe. There's been some fantastic stuff donated by community members with stories behind them. At some point, those gabion baskets will go in and be filled with artefacts from life on the opal fields and life on some of the farms around here as well.
Moving on from the oculus, you'll enter the building through a short tunnel that serves as an immersion experience and a transition from the outside world of the 3 Mile Opal Field to what awaits inside the centre.
So here's our entry tunnel. So it'll be amazing coming out of the sunlight and the opal fields into this dimmer, cooler space. You can hear the moment you step in the sound changes. In this tunnel we're planning a sound experience so that as people walk in they'll start to hear quietly people's voices and sounds of mining activity and people speaking Eulera language and English and Croatian and of many languages of this community, and birds and claim tags clicking on posts in the wind. So when you walk in here, it'll be such a transformation from outside to inside. These are standard concrete culverts that have been used in this really clever way to create this tunnel. It's an incredibly innovative building, but wherever possible, it's using off-the-shelf, cost-effective components. And so now we're approaching the entrance. There'll be a glass sliding door here. and this will be visitors' first glimpse into this incredible space.
And now we're inside the Australian Opal Centre.
On our right is the wall where our wall of fame will be for the AOC founders and other funding partners who've made this possible. So that's going to be a really proud place to see people's names and see the names of the people that have made this all happen. And then, you'll stand and have this opportunity to gaze over this extraordinary space. So we'll have ticketing here and a little cafe seating and our shop. And then behind those walls are the bathrooms. The agitator down there is part of an installation that'll be permanent. We were very grateful to BARPA for assisting us with getting that into place before the wall went up. And that's part of a project called Lucky People, where we're using mining machines as installation sites, adapting them to tell stories about life on the opal fields. It's quite extraordinary seeing how dwarfed that is by the scale of the building.
And just on that, the building's huge. I've had the privilege of standing in the foundations of the AOC building, the big excavation, many times over the past decade, from site tours to site visits with the architects to inspection visits. It's always had a huge footprint on the ground, but it's such a massive transformation from a big hole, essentially an open-cut mine, to this building. Part of this is because the walls now stick up past ground level. That was hard to visualise when it was just a hole. But it's really mind-blowing how enormous this space is. And that little agitator, the full-sized cement mixer, the kind that you see on the back of a truck, it really helps to show the scale of the building.
This actually provides us with a good view of the pedestrian ramp. So as people come in and buy their ticket and look around to get to the lower ground floor where most of the exhibitions will be, they'll walk down this ramp. You turn around at the other end and walk down and then turn around onto the lower ground floor. So it'll be a really beautiful experience to actually see the building from different heights and angles as you're walking through, and you're changing your viewpoint in relation to the structure of the building. And at the other end, there's a platform where you can stop and rest and have a look at what's going on. It's a little bit like a rainforest tree walk, but in space. And on that western wall there'll be, in future, a projected image. So that's a big projection screen. And at the moment, we're planning to project straight onto the raw concrete. There'll be a projector housing coming up out of the ground and a 7.5 metre wide image. And that could be anything we want it to be. We could have spectacular opal images there. We will have, as part of the Lucky People project again, some gorgeous portrait images of people in the community. So again, as you stand here and look around, you'll see that image changing constantly on the wall. We have 4 EWPs, 4 elevated work platform vehicles that are looking like they're trying to escape from the building. Now that this eastern wall's gone up, they're in here until they're not needed anymore. There'll be a ramp built so that they can be exited from the building when they're no longer needed. But they're there at the moment to create a temporary safe work environment for some of the workers. And they do look like they're wanting to get out. Don't leave me in here.
Curiosity Mine is on Patreon. Patreon is a service that allows you to directly support your favourite creators to allow them to continue making the content that you enjoy. If you enjoy these videos and you think Curiosity Mine deserves your support, head on over to patreon.com/curiositymine for more information on how you can support the channel directly. If you do, you'll get your name on this list of amazing people who are supporting the channel already. So head to patreon.com/curiositymine or curiositymine.com/Patreon. All roads lead to Rome. But for now, let's get back to the building.
Visitors will be able to walk under here. As people come down off the ramp, the main direction of flow will be on footpaths that go around up towards this end and then across there and then down there and do a big loop and come back up around here.
Let's talk about passive cooling and Malqafs. Malqafs, or badge ears, or wind towers, are a Middle Eastern method of passively cooling a building using the most basic principles of thermodynamics. Hot air rises and cool air sinks. The idea is that you have open vents at the top of a building that allow the hot air accumulating around the ceiling to vent out, and you have open vents on the outside of the building that channel cooler air from lower down into the building to replace it, with a couple of nifty tricks about how that air is distributed as it comes in and goes out. It's as simple as that. It's about increasing airflow and preventing the mass and materials of the building from retaining the heat of the sun. The Australian Opal Centre cools itself twofold by not only using Malqafs for ventilation, but also by embedding the lower two floors of the building into the thermal mass of the earth to further reduce the temperature inside.
But when you look at it from this point of view, you can see how much of the building is buried, because the ground level is really where the tunnel comes in. From the tunnel and mezzanine level down, we're buried. And so that's all connected to the earth. That's why these zigzag walls are so important, because they give the strength to hold back the pressure from behind. And this flat wall is not doing that. There's a big retaining wall behind that to hold back the pressure from the ground. All along the sides of the building are the internal risers or ducts for the Malqafs. At the moment, they've got a paper external protective layer that won't be taken off until right at the end. But the ones that come down to just above person height are the inlet risers, so the air from the outside will come down into the building and be emitted into the building there. The high ones are the outlet risers, so the hotter air in the building will leave the building through those higher ones. So you can see that there's some inlets, some outlets, and there's been extensive modelling of airflows and air movement and temperature changes in different wind conditions and so on to determine that distribution of inlets and outlets. The roof part, the roof component of the Malqafs isn't on yet. That's one of the last main structural elements in the building.
In addition, the system will offer some degree of manual control over the temperature management systems.
There are dampers so that we can shut the Malqafs down in the event of a dust storm, for example. The Malqafs can be open and closed by the building management system to adjust the ventilation depending on whether we want air in or out. If we want to purge the hot air in the building on a summer night, we can do that to help take the heat that's built up through the day out of the building at night so that it's back at a cooler state in the morning. And there will be fan and misting systems as well that will also enhance the ability of the Malqafs to cool the building. It will not be a building that's maintained at 22 degrees or 25 degrees. It will respond to the environment around it by being half buried in the earth and the walls connected directly to the earth, by having all of the insulation in the roof trusses and the nature of the skylight material, and then primarily through this ventilation system, this passive breathing wind chimney system, we can ameliorate and temper the temperature. If it's 40 degrees outside, it'll still be warm in here. It's not going to be 20 degrees or 25 degrees, but it will be much cooler than outside, and people's experience of comfort is not just about absolute temperature. It'll be fascinating as we learn to live with the building and manage the building and, teach the building to breathe in a way that works for visitor comfort. We want the building and the way we operate to respond sensibly to the environment rather than trying to force an internal environment that is out of sync with and at huge energy cost to what's happening around us. Above us we've got roof trusses that are clad, and behind that cladding is insulation. Interspersed between the trusses are skylights made out of a multi-layered polycarbonate material that minimises the income of UV light and heat. Running down the centre of the roof, you can see the roof access system through the skylights, which is sort of neat.
In the previous video update, we saw the roof trusses being prepared and installed, and they're now in place. I love the complementary geometric design of the roof trusses. It creates a bright and airy space filled with natural light, while also speaking the language of geology and mineralogy, almost like the inner surface of a geode. It's so completely non-intrusive. If you look up, it's beautiful, but it doesn't take away the focus from the marvelous things that will be right in front of you. And then we come to what will probably be the most exciting part of the building for visitors, which is the exhibition space and the future Gondwanan Garden.
The reason for the skylights is to allow for the future Gondwanan Garden. And at this end, you'll see that the skylights are relatively opaque and they become more translucent moving towards the eastern end of the building, where in future the bulk of the garden will be. Yeah, the floor will be local, loose, natural materials, and then there'll be a pathway of the accessible pathway that will go in the external walkway as well. Again, in future, this could be changed. So in future, where we're standing now will be part of the Gondwanan Garden.
The garden has been part of the design of the building from the very beginning, and it's never left the architects' minds.
Right now we're standing in what will be the Gondwanan Garden in the new Australian Opal Centre building. This is going to be a 2-storey high garden planted with things like Wallamai pine trees, ferns and tree ferns, the sorts of things that were living in Lightning Ridge 110 million years ago when the dinosaurs and their companions were living here, the things that we now have as fossils in our fossil collection. So this spot, which is now dry cracked clay, is going to become a beautiful lush garden filled with Wallamai pines and their companions.
And then there's the exhibition spaces.
The floor level will rise. It'll rise to, I believe, the level of the lower part of the ramp section there, and there'll be a lifted floor with space under it for more services to run, and garden and more rooms.
Right now we're walking on what will be the bottom floor of the building, the second level, and I'd say somewhere around now we're leaving the garden and going into what's going to become the permanent exhibition spaces. So over in this area here on the bottom level will be the world's greatest public collection of Australian opal and rare opalised fossils. In that area will be discovery rooms for school kids and other classes, and further down the building will be scientific lab, plant room and other things. Further up that way is a research library, the research collection, storage and the curator's office, offices and spaces that can be used by volunteers. So the centre will have dozens of volunteers. We already have an incredible team of volunteers that run our public exhibition space and public programs now.
A number of those features are not part of stage 1, so there'll be future additions to the building.
This is a stage 1 floor solution with accessible pathways that will guide people around the space and the exhibitions that people need to see close up or be along those pathways. So from this end of the ramp, you'll walk onto a pathway that will take you up here and then around there. Just beyond the pathway there, we have planned some really beautiful interactive digital screens with opal imagery. And you'll come down and walk down along this way, and this is where there'll be a bank of showcases with incredible selected items from the collections. I think it's truly extraordinary and such a testament to the vision of the architect and all of the funding partners who've stuck with us through really big challenges since 2020, and to the entire team, the design team, the consultants, the builder, the AOCs, building subcommittee and board, all of our founders who've stuck with us.
So that's where the Australian Opal Centre building project is up to right now. It's been a long journey to get this far, and there's still quite a bit to do, but it's looking amazing, and it's incredible to be able to stand in this very real space and imagine the wonderful things that will be all around in the future. There will be links below so that you can follow the Australian Opal Centre on social media, and of course keep watching this space for the next update on the progress of this incredible project. This video was made with the help of the Australian Opal Centre at Lightning Ridge, with special thanks to Jenni Brammall. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to Curiosity Mine on YouTube and maybe even supporting the channel directly via Patreon. The link is in the description, and thank you for watching.